يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. You are looking for it, but you can't find it. This is why I'm teasing you. Yeah, last week, in the last lesson, we were talking about the harms of riba. If you remember, I mentioned that these are 7 ayat, but there are 3 more ayat of Quran which talk about riba. One is in Surah Al Imran, Surah number 3, verse number 130, which I just recited. O you who have Iman, do not consume riba multiplied many times, and fear Allah so that you may gain success. And وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, and show obedience to Allah and Rasul so that you may be shown mercy. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ, and hasten and rush towards the maghfirat from your Rabb. وَجَنَّةٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ, and towards Jannat, the width of which is the heavens and the earth. أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, which is ready for the muttaqeen. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, those who spend in prosperity and in adversity, in happiness and in difficulty. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, who suppress the anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, and who pardon people. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, and Allah loves those who do good. You see how the ayat are going? Allah started with don't consume riba, and then Allah said yunfiquna fi sarra. The opposite is spending on others. So rather than taking riba and interest, spend on others. Now Allah said la ta'kulu riba ad'afan mudha'afa, multiplied many times. Hazrat Mufti Shafi Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi writes, there is special event behind the revelation of this verse. In the pre-Islamic Arabia, the general pattern of riba transactions was that loans were given on riba for a set period of time. When that period expired and the borrower was unable to pay it back, he was given an extension of time on the condition that the amount of riba was to be increased. Similarly, if payment was not made even on expiry of the second deadline, the amount of riba was further increased. This fact is mentioned in general books of tafsir, especially Lubabun Nuqul, on the authority of Mujahid. This verse was revealed to eradicate this inhumane custom of pre-Islamic Arabia. Ad'afam mudha'afah means multiplied many times. Allah warns us of selfishness and anti-community conduct, and naturally so, riba was declared prohibited. Agi Hazrat mentions, multiplied many times does not mean that if it's only multiplied once or twice, then you can take it. No, this is just to say that you might start off with one twice, and then you keep on multiplying time after time, and you end up so badly that you lose everything and you fall into huge debt. So this is one more verse with regards to prohibition of riba, and this is the reality even today as well. On mortgages, if you defer payment, you have to pay interest on that interest, and then if you then you pay interest on that second month, you pay interest on that, interest increases and then it increases, and 30,000 loan becomes 300,000. It's happened. Real story. And the court case, and then the court decided, well, it's bank's money, you have to give it, you have to sell your house. And they were left with no roof over their heads. This is ad'afam muda'afa. एक और दोस्त का भी अपना उसने कुछ 7-8 हजार कर्ज लिया था उस जमाने में क्रेडिट कार्ड वगैरह पर ये बढ़ते बढ़ते ही rose up to 70,000 because if you take it on high APR and then you lose your job and you can't pay it, they're just going to keep coming after you and it's going to keep increasing. This is ad'afan muda'afatan. This is why don't take interest at all. Don't get involved with riba. Then 2 more ayat in Surah Ma'idah. Surah Al Imran. Surah Al Imran की तो पढ़ ली ना हमने. Surah Nisa, verse number 160 and 161. فبظلم من الذين هادوا حرمنا عليهم طيبات أحلت لهم وبصدهم عن سبيل الله كثيرا وأخذهم الربا وقد نهوا عنه بالباطل وأعتدنا للكافرين منهم عذابا أليما. So for the transgression of those who became Jews, we prohibited for them the good things earlier made lawful for them, and for their preventing people frequently from the path of Allah, and for their taking riba, usury or interest, while they were forbidden from it, and for their eating up the properties and consuming people's properties by false means. And we have prepared for the disbelievers among them a painful punishment. Meaning, the la'nat and the curse came upon them due to multiple reasons, and one of the reasons was وَأَكْلِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. Their consuming of riba when they were prohibited from it. This means in the Shariat of Musa ala Nabiyina alayhi salatu wassalam, riba was prohibited. Torah clearly states that riba is haram, you can't take it. But still they changed the verses of Torah and they took interest. And وَأَكْلِهِمْ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ. They used to take people's money in an unlawful way. That was the reason of their curse which came upon them. This is why in another place, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ تِجَارَةً عَن تَرَاضٍ مِّنكُمْ. Don't eat up other people's money among yourselves in a batil on false way. Unless it's a tijara, that's another thing. Otherwise, to fraud someone, cheat someone out of their money, and various schemes and scams, it's all not allowed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَكْلِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. They were told not to take interest. Torah, Zabur, Injil, Quran, all 4 scriptures say riba, interest is haram. Injil में भी ये लिखा है, लेकिन इन लोगों ने इंजील को चेंज कर दिया, यहूद ने तौरात को चेंज कर दिया. शुक्र है कि मुसलमानों ने कुरान को चेंज नहीं किया. अल्लाह पाक क़यामत तक कुरान की हिफाजत फरमाए. There is one more verse in Surah Rum. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِّبًا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُو عِندَ اللَّهِ وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. Surah Rum, Surah number 30, verse number 39. Whatever you give in usury that it may increase upon the people's wealth, it will not increase with Allah. However, whatever you give in zakat, seeking Allah's pleasure, then they are the ones who will receive recompense in many folds. So this ayat of Surah Rum, which is Makki Surah, also points towards riba, according to one tafsir. There is another tafsir as well, But one tafsir is that it's talking about riba and sood is not allowed. Then Hazrat Mufti Sahib, after mentioning these three verses regarding riba from Quran, goes on to explaining some additional details about riba. What is the nature of riba in Quran and Sunnah? And what is the wisdom behind prohibition of riba? How can banking system run without riba? So these points are explained beautifully by Hazrat Mufti Shafi Sahib. He starts with riba is an Arabic word, and it is from raba yarbu, which means to rise, to increase, to inflate, to go up. A hilly area is called rabwa. وَآوَيْنَاهُمَا إِلَى رَبْوَةٍ ذَاتِ قَرَارٍ وَمَعِينٍ, on a hilltop. So, because the money increases, that's why it's called riba. It inflates, it goes up, it increases. And then, what is riba? One hadith, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, كُلُّ قَرْضٍ جَرَّ نَفْعًا فَهُوَ riba. Any debt which brings profit is riba. But qarz diya, loan, any loan you give and you derive profit from it, that is riba. Ahkamul Quran, Jassas Razi says, Al-qardul mashrutu fihi al-ajal wa ziyadatu malin ala al-mustaqriz. Riba is that you give someone money, loan, and you condition in there that I will give you this amount of time, provided you increase this amount of payment. That is called riba. Now, riba is of various types. One is riba al-fadl, another is riba al-nasi'ah. Riba al-nasi'ah, where you give udhar, credit, and you charge for that. And riba al-fadl is mentioned in the hadith in 6 commodities. الفضة بالفضة والذهب بالذهب والتمر بالتمر والملح بالملح والشعير بالشعير or والحنطة بالحنطة مثلا بمثل يدا بيد هاء وهاء من زاد واستزاد فقد أربع أو كما قال عليه السلام. If you sell khajur for khajur, barley for barley, wheat for wheat, salt for salt, gold for gold, silver for silver, then there should be 2 things in there. It should be cash transaction, and number 2, it should be exactly same in amount. If you take more or less, then that is riba. This is in the 6 commodities mentioned. And Fuqaha dived into the illat and reasoning behind it. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi's research is that one is that they should be mithli, and number 2, I think qadar, amount. They should be sold by measurement, and they should be mithli hamjins. So where these 2 things are found, then you can't take more unless it has to be exact same. Now, let's say khajur, I have some nice majul khajur, and you have some low quality khajur from Tunisia, and we want to exchange that with one another. So it has to be exact same, 1 kilo for 1 kilo. But you say, majul is high quality and this is low quality. I will give you 5 kilos and you give me 1 kilo majul khajur. This is riba. It's not allowed. What you can do is you can sell those 5 kilos for 15 pounds, and with that 15 pounds you can purchase the 1 kilo majul from me. So where 2 things are of similar jins, and they are given in weight or measure, then they should both be same. There should be no addition in there. एक दफे ऐसा हुआ, we came back from Hajj, and one of our sathis luggage didn't come. So he said, Maulana Sahab, can I have some khajur? Because people are coming to my house. When my luggage comes, I'll give you yours back. तो मैंने कहा ओके ठीक है, मेरा तो खजूर आ गया था, तो मैं उसको अच्छी भली एक बैग भर के खजूर दे दिया. कुछ मुद्दत बाद उसका वो आया, तो मुझे छोटी सी थैली दे गया. अब मैं उसको कुछ कह भी नहीं सकता, और ये तो सूद हो गया. अब उसको कुछ कहने जाए, हाउ कैन वी एक्सप्लेन टू हिम, अल्लाह मुझे माफ कर, आई कांट से एनीथिंग. लेकिन ये है सूद. व्हाट वी शुड हैव डन वाज एग्जैक्ट अमाउंट, कि भाई मुझे तो पता था कि मैंने कितना किलो दिया था, तो उससे उतना किलो लेना चाहिए ना. अब किलो की 3 बैग उसको दे दी है, तो 3 किलो लाना चाहिए ना. तो वो तो थोड़ा सा इतना से दे के भाग गया. तो मैंने कहा कि ये मुझे ठग गया ना, ले कहीं का खजूर में भी ठग गया. तो ये दूसरी टाइप का क्या कहते हैं, सूद है. सेकंड टाइप, वन इज व्हेन यू गिव लोन and you take more back, that is interest. And the other is riba al-fadl, where you sell one another and then you take more from one jins. Similarly, gold, we go to gold markets, ladies go in Medina Sharif, lots of gold shops. Now you take your old gold and you want to buy a new one, so it has to be exact same in weight and wazn. But they say yours is old, its design is old, this is new design, so this is more expensive than yours. So what they do is they weigh yours and they say, we will give you this much amount for 1 gram. Like for example, 100 riyals per gram. And yours is this many grams, so it's valued at 5,000 riyals. And this is, we will give you sell you at 150 riyals a gram. And this will be 7,500 riyals. So even though they are both equal in weight, but because of the new design, it's more expensive, and yours has less value. So you can't just exchange it directly. So what they normally do is they buy your gold from you, and they give you 5,000 riyals. So that contract is done. And then the one which you chose, you buy that and you add 2,500 to that, and you give them 7,500 riyals. And they also know the mas'ala. That's why how it works. But if you go to another country like Dubai, where they don't know the mas'ala, where they might be non-Muslim vendors, and they might say, okay, you exchange this for that, so usme it's not allowed. For a Muslim, it's sood, interest. That is also sood. Now, some people try to be clever, and they said that, well, you know, the sood in the time of the Prophet ﷺ was about that khajur and gold one, and that was prohibited. And this interest of lending and giving debt and then charging more, it was not in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, so that's allowed. So Quran Hadith talk about that one, not this one. So we told to them, oh bhai, abhi humne explain kiya. Zamane jahiliyat mein, there were rich people who used to lend money, and they used to charge more. And regarding that, the Shan-e Nuzul of the ayat of Ali Imran, La ta'kulu riba adha'afan mudha'afa, is only about that type of riba, riba al-fadl, where you charge, riba al-nasi'ah, where you give udhar and you charge more. So both were prevalent, and one was more than the other. Quran cancelled out both types of ribas. This is also haram, that is also haram. Then Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, in the hadith of Sahih Muslim towards the end, said that, you know, riba masail inna riba min akhiri ma nazara min al-Quran, wa inna an-nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qubida qabla an yubayyinahu lana fada'u riba wa riba. He said that, you know, it is one of the last verses to be revealed regarding riba in the Quran, and Huzur died away. We were unable to get more clarity from him. Therefore, leave riba and leave riba, shak, doubt. Whenever you get doubt of riba interest, leave that as well. Asal mein, there are some other possibilities of riba in muzabana, muhaqala, where people used to trade in farmland. And sometimes what happened was um, uh, a person was in need of some fruit, khajur for now, but he's got massive bagh and he's going to get fruit in the season after 2 months. But he's in need of dates now, or he's in need of barley and wheat now. So someone trades with him, okay, I'll give you this amount of khajur, and from your bagh, when it comes, then you give me this much amount. So again, they are exchanging khajur for khajur, or barley for barley, or wheat for wheat. Now, there are some gray areas there as well. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu said that we were unable to get more clarification from Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is why he said, I wish I had asked more questions regarding them. He doesn't mean that there were questions about that type of riba of jahiliyyah which was cancelled out. It is these type of ribas. So this is what he was talking about. So riba, now we understand what riba is and what types of riba there are prevailing. In this day and age, the most prevalent riba is the first type, where you lend, you give time limit, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you charge interest on that according to the time you give. You give 1 year, you charge more interest. You give 10 years, you charge less interest. 25 years, you charge even more, less interest rates, because it's a time is spread out. So you pay less interest. So that is what's prevalent today. Now, the wisdom behind prohibition of riba. Hazrat Mufti Sahib says, first of all, we should realize there is nothing in the entire creation of the world which has no goodness or utility at all. Even in serpents, scorpions, wolves, lions, and in arsenic, that fatal poison, there are thousands of utilities and benefits for human beings. Is there anything in the vastness of the nature which could really be called bad? Take theft, robbery, bribery. Not one of these remain without some benefit in it. But it is commonly recognized in every religion and community, in every school of thought, that things which have more benefit and less harms are called beneficial and useful. On the other hand, things that cause more harm and less benefit are taken to be harmful and useless. Even Quran Sharif, when declaring liquor and gambling to be haram, proclaimed that they do hold a little bit of benefit for some people, but the curse of that sin, of the sin they generate, is far greater than the benefits they yield. Therefore, they cannot be called good and useful. In the case of riba, it is the same. The consumer of riba does have some temporal benefits apparently coming to him, but its curse in this world and in the hereafter is much too severe as compared to the benefit. An intelligent person who compares things in terms of their profit, loss, harm, and benefit can hardly include things of casual benefit with an everlasting loss in the list of useful things. After these introductory remarks, let us look at the problem of riba. A little deliberation will show us that its spiritual and moral loss are compared to the casual or transitory profit earned by the riba consumer is so severe that it virtually takes away the great quality of being human from him. It should be borne in mind that the transitory gain that comes to him is restricted to his person only. As compared to this, the entire community victimized by economic crisis suffers a great loss. But strange are the affairs of the world. When something becomes the craze of the time, its drawbacks go out of sight. One looks for nothing but gains, no matter how small, mean, and casual be those gains. Nobody cares to look at the harm lying under them, no matter how fatal and universal it may be. Then Hazrat explains a little bit more. Riba has become an epidemic in modern times, holding the entire world squeezed in its clutches. In fact, it is so reversed the very taste of human nature that the bitter has started tasting sweet. That which is the cause of economic ruin for the entire humanity is being dished out as the solution of economic ills. The situation is such that the thinker who raises his voice in protest is brushed aside as crazy, as this is what it is. But a physician of humanity must remain the physician he is. Should he, after having closely observed the epidemic has spread in an area and treatment has become ineffective, start thinking of telling people that there is just no disease around and everything is fine, he then becomes a killer of humanity, robbing it of its potential. It is the duty of a really expert physician of human affairs, even at the time of such as this, that he should continue telling people about the disease and its harmful effects and keep suggesting ways it could be cured. The prophets ﷺ come to reform human society. Whether or not they will be heard is something they never worry about. If they had waited for people to hear and obey them, kufr or shirk would have certainly filled the whole world. Incidentally, who believed in kalma la ilaha illallah when the last of the prophet was ordained by Allah for his preaching and teaching, who believed in him? Although riba is taken to be the backbone of contemporary economy, but the truth of the matter is that what some Western thinkers have themselves admitted, that it is no backbone of economics, rather on the contrary, it is a worm grown in and feeding on it. But it is regrettable that even theoreticians and scientists of today are unable to free themselves from the stranglehold of custom and practice and do some serious thinking in this direction. How is it that even the experience of hundreds of years fail to attract their attention towards the ultimate outcome of riba and interest, which is nothing except that peoples and communities around the world suffer from want and hunger, become victims of the many and economic crisis, and the poor grow poorer. Hazrat then explains economic drawbacks of riba and interest. If there was no other defect in riba except that it results in the gain of some individuals and the loss of the whole humanity, this one and very defect would have been enough to justify its prohibition and hate-worthiness, although it does have many other economic drawbacks and spiritual disasters. First of all, let us understand how riba is the gain of particular individuals and loss of a community in general. Hazrat then explains this, how it is only gain for a particular people and loss for the whole of humanity, and how banks work. Hazrat says, the new enlightenment of today, or shall we call it the new darkness, by producing purified liquor through mechanical processing and aging, by inventing new and fancy forms of theft and robbery, and by innovating novel covers for evil and immodesty, has made everybody so civilized that watchers of the surface are unable to see the evil hidden behind. Very similar to this, in order to continue the practice of riba or interest, individual money lending counters have been replaced by joint stock companies called banks. Now, to throw dust in everybody's eyes, Consumers are educated that this modern method of riba usury is good for the whole community because common people do not know how to run a business with their money or cannot do so due to shortage of capital. So money they all have goes as deposit in banks, and every one of them manages to get, no matter how little, some profit in the name of interest. In addition to that, big businessmen are given the opportunity to borrow money on interest from banks. They invest in big business and reap the benefits. Thus, interest has been made to appear some sort of blessing which is reaching all individuals of community. भाई समझ पड़ रही कि नहीं पड़ रही? I can't say this in my own words the way Hazrat has put it. That's why I'm reading from there. However, a little honesty will show that this is a grand deception by which by transforming dirty distilleries into posh hotels and hooker dens into cinemas and nightclubs has been released to the present position has been released to the present poison as an antidote, and the harmful as beneficial, the poison as antidote. Intelligent people have no problem in seeing through these deceptive covering placed on anti-moral crimes. They know it has inevitably increased crime, spreading its poison from acutely than ever before. Similar is the case of riba, the new form of which, by making the masses have a sip of an insignificant percentage of interest, little bit of interest, 1%, 0.5%, 2%, this has made them accomplices in their crimes, while at the same time they open for themselves limitless opportunities to keep committing this crime. Who does not know that this insignificant percentage of interest doled out by saving banks and post offices to clients cannot by any means take care of their living expenses? They are therefore forced to go for manual labor or seek a job. Business is something they hardly think of themselves. And if somebody does play the idea for a while, the problem that the capital of the entire community sits in the banks and the shape of things in business is such that a person with a small capital can hardly make an entry there unless he wishes to commit suicide. The reason is that banks can advance a major loan only to one who has sound credit and large business. One who has $1 million can get a loan of 10 millions. He can run a business valued 10 times more than his personal capital would allow. In contrast, the man with small capital has little or no credit rating. The banks do not trust him enough to advance a loan 10 times more than his worth. One who owns 1,000 can hardly get even 1,000 loan, let alone 10,000. Take the case of a person who owns 100,000 and runs a business worth $1 million by using 900,000 the bank money. Suppose he earns a profit of 1%, which means he has earned a 10% profit on his 100,000. In comparison, a person who uses his personal 100,000 in business will earn a profit of no more than 1% on his 100,000, which would be hardly enough to cover his operating expenses. Then there is yet another factor. The man with a large capital can buy raw material from the market at a price so low and discounted which the small capitalist cannot get. As a result, the man with the small capital is rendered helpless and needy. Should he secretly pursued by his misfortune, put his foot into some such business already monopolized by big capitalists, then they will then, taking him to be an unwelcome partner in their godhood, make the market collapse, even if it be at their cost, making the small capitalist lose all his capital and profit. This is why businesses get monopolized by some individuals who happen to be big capitalists. इंडिया में ये हो रहा है ना, ये अंबानी और अडानी, they are the biggest crooks, and they take all the money, and farmers, they lend farmers, and they take the farming, the harvest at very cheap price. I mean, if the farmers were to sell in the markets, they would get more price. But these people lend them money and they say, because you borrowed our money, you have to give us at this price. They fix that price, and the government is, working with them. And the farmers, this is why the farmers stood up and they said, we want our rights. And this happens everywhere in all businesses. Now the banks give out money to the big shots. Man United, Glazers, they took 700-800 million, whatever, to buy the club. Now they don't have that much money, but they are doing business. If something happens, United, relegated, and they lose everything, they don't lose anything. The bank loses. The banks are the ones who's going to lose out. Glazers don't lose. If profits, then they take all the profits. And then who's going to bail out the bank? The public. Royal Bank of Scotland went bust some time ago. Who bailed them out? The public had to bail them out. Northern Rock, ये जो banks होती हैं, so they don't lose anything. They just give money out to the rich people. The rich people keep making money, but it's the poor people who keep getting trodden upon. This is why, where there is no riba system, that is where they flourish. Hazrat went on to explain, let us consider some other harms caused by this interest-oriented economic system. 1, 2, 3, 4. बहुत लंबी बात है. First comes the great injustice inflicted upon the community when a whole set of people are deprived of the opportunity to engage in real business and are reduced to economic slavery of big capitalists who elect to give them a profit of their choice as some tip. Penny देते हैं उनको, peanuts, और main profit तो वो बनाते हैं. Number 2, another loss that affects the whole country comes through the monopolization of the market rates of commodities made possible by this system. They sell high and fill their coffers by emptying the pockets of the whole community. Worse still, they have the evil choice of stopping the sale of their holdings in order to further increase price by design. If these selfish people were not allowed to feed on the combined capital of the community through the agency of banks, and if they were left with no other alternative but to run their businesses with their personal capital, things would be different. The small capitalist would have been saved from distress, and these self-serving people would not be sitting as demigods on all trading options. The investors with a small capital, by showing profits in business ventures, would have given impetus to others. More and more businesses would come up managed by separate staffers, giving livelihood to thousands of needy individuals, besides making business profits fairly widespread. And of course, the general availability of merchandise in the market would be favorably affected. The reason is competition, which motivates a businessman to reduce his margin of profit. Hence, the public benefit from this competition. आगे फिर हजरत ने लिखा है, in short, this method has infected nations and communities with a fatal disease. Apart from brainwashing, it has done which makes the patient take disease as the cure. Now let us look at the third economic disaster, fourth economic drawback. As compared to this, should one lose his entire capital? Hazrat ne likha hai, another economic drawback of riba lies in the predicament of the borrower on interest when he is hit by major loss. Once this happens, he is unable to survive anymore. To begin with, he never had enough capital, the loss of which he could cushion. The loss throws him into double distress. Not only does he lose his profit and capital, but also at the same time he gets buried under the bank loan for the liquidation of which he has no means. As compared to this, should he lose his entire capital in an interest-free business, he would at most become penniless, but he would not be burdened with the debt with the huge debt on his shoulders. Then Hazrat mentions in 1954, the cotton business of Pakistan suffered. And to use the Quranic word, calamity of mahaq, destruction by loss happened. And Hazrat mentions that, and why it happened, why the cotton business collapsed, how the government had given contracts to big companies, and they put the prices down, and cotton from 100 rupees even down to 10 rupees, and the cotton market, they couldn't sell it, so government had to bail them out and pay 90 rupees to them. And where did the 90 rupees the government gave come from? From the public purse. So the banks kept on benefiting, and the public, the farmers, the cotton producers also suffered, and the general public also suffered. I will give that example. This is a design for deception. Insurance, stock exchange, and all these things are a design of deception, and where this is all where it lies. And this is, Hazrat is saying, the economic harms of interest. Then there are spiritual harms, and we have both sides, zahir and batin. We have the apparent, which we can see. We can all see the harms. If you lend people money and they do business, right? If something happens, at worst, what's going to happen? He's going to lose his capital and his profit, but he's not going to go in huge debt. But if you take from banks and then your business goes bust, then you suffer a huge loss, and you have to keep on paying that interest. You have to go out. If you can't pay it off, then you have to sell your house. If you can't sell your house, if you can't sell your other properties, you got nothing, then they might put you in prison. They might make you suffer, and this is what leads people to suicide. They can't pay it off and they commit suicide. So these are the ills and the harms of the riba system. And spiritual harms, Islam teaches us humanity, sacrifice, generosity, are great human morals. Giving comfort to others, at the cost of personal discomfort, is wonderful. Being helpful to others is what brings the real happiness and joy. Not being greedy and sucking people's money. It doesn't bring you happiness. Real happiness is in helping others, doing khidmat. And you, kali mein ek kissa pad raha tha. This lady, she was married for 10 years. She didn't have any children. Her husband said, I'm going to have another wife. Maybe I can have a child. She said, I was gutted. I didn't want to, but I said, all right, what can I say? You want a child? So he got married. And he said, I will give you your rights properly. He used to spend one night here, one night there. But then slowly, he changed his ways. He used to spend 7 nights there and 1 night here. And they had a kid. And then he was totally gone. I was downhearted. I didn't know what to do. But, someone in the family died. She inherited some money. She thought that rather than wasting this money, I might as well start a business. So she started a business. So, and she's now standing on her own feet. And the business, mashallah, went up and she made lots of money. And then she started helping others. And she started doing charity work. And she was going around and helping orphans. And she was now smiling, with children. She said, I didn't have one child. I had tens of children. They're all calling me mom, and I'm helping them. And I was more happy now than I ever was in my life. So real happiness is when you help others and you do things for others, not when you become greedy with your own things. This is the spirit which, it is the human spirit which should come in people. But when you deal with riba, this spirit dies away. It has that spiritual side effect. It kills your humanity. Then, number 2, rather than be merciful to the distressed, the one who is involved in the taking riba and this business, he looks out for an opportunity to take undue advantage of other people's distress. Wherever a person is, बैंक वाले भी देखते हैं कि पकड़ो इनको, फिर उसको पकड़ लेते हैं और advantage की wait करते हैं. Number 3, the constant devouring of interest results in increasing greed for money. to limits where he is all intoxicated. जैसे नशा होता है ना, नशा, शराब का नशा, ड्रग्स का नशा, तो इंटरेस्ट की वजह से पैसों का नशा चढ़ जाता है. You get intoxicated by that money, and you're always money, 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 money. So he doesn't know good from bad, totally heedless of the sad end of what is doing. So this is why Islam has said that no, bhai, riba system is not good, it's bad, physically bad, spiritually bad, economically bad. So don't get involved in it. People say there is some benefit in there. No, bhai, or little bit benefit, usko nahi dekha jata. Jo broader picture hai, that's what we look at. Now, Hazrat has mentioned some other points here. I'll just skip them. Some ahadith about riba. Just quickly, the Hazrat has mentioned maybe half a dozen or more. In fact, lots of hadiths here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 1 dozen hadith. सूद के बारे में हुजूर क्या फरमाते हैं, देखो. Number 1 hadith, इज्तनिबु सबअल मुबिक़ात, avoid 7 destructive sins. Shirk, murder, अक्लुर रिबा. Third sin हुजूर ने कौन सा बताया? Consuming interest. अक्लु मालिल यतीम, consuming a yatim's mal. वत्तवल्ली यौम ज़हफ़, and running away when the army is marching, to desert the army. And qazful muhsanatil ghafilat, slandering chaste, unaware women of committing zina is the major sin. Number 2, the long hadith which we mentioned, if you remember, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw a dream in which he was shown barzakh azab, and he saw that blood of river, and there was a man inside. He was trying to come out, but another man was standing on the river bank, and he had some stones. He would throw them on his chest, and he would go back, and he's screaming, and the blood is sticky, and stench and smell coming out of it. Huzur was told that this is the person who used to consume people's interest, charge interest from people. ये बैंक वालों की खैर नहीं है, अजाब ही अजाब है. अल्लाह पाक हिफाजत फरमाए. और हमारे मुल्कों में भी वो पठानी उगरानी होती है, सूद देते हैं, फिर वो लेने के लिए जाते हैं, मारते भी हैं, कत्ल भी कर देते हैं. ये जो बिहेवियर है, बहुत सख्त अजाब है उसके ऊपर. नंबर 3, लानत. लान रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम आकिल रिबा व मुकिलहु व कातिबहु व शाहिदैहि व क़ालहुम सवाउन. They're all the same. Who takes interest, who pays interest, who writes the contract of interest, and the 2 witnesses who witness the contract of interest, they're all the same. They're all cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 4, Farmaya, 4 people, it is incumbent upon Allah that He will not admit them into Jannah. He will not let them taste the ni'mat and luxuries of Jannah. 1, an alcoholic who was addicted to alcohol. 2, akilur riba, who used to consume interest. And yatim's mal, and aqul liwalidayhi, who was abusive to his parents, narrated by Hakim. Number 4, 1 dirham a person takes from riba is more serious in the eyes of Allah than 33 zinas which a person would do in Islam. 1 pound of riba interest is worse than 33 zinas. देखो साहब, अल्लाह हमको समझ दे कितना खतरनाक मसला है इंटरेस्ट का. आगे चलो. This hadith is in Tabrani. Ibn Abbas said Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam forbade buying fruit until it's ripe. And then he said, when zina and riba spread in a city, then it is they who have brought the azab of Allah upon themselves. If Allah's azab comes, then it will be because they brought it on themselves if 2 things spread. Number 1, zina, and number 2, riba. Another hadith. This was narrated by Hakim. Musnad Ahmad narrates, whenever riba becomes rampant in a society, they will be struck by famine. And whenever rishwat and bribery becomes rampant in a society, they will be taken and punished by a horror of others, fear of others. हो गया जी. जब रिबा फैलेगा तो कहत आएगा, फामिन आएगी, बारिश नहीं होगी, खाने पीने की चीजों में दुश्वारी होगी, परेशानी आएगी, बिकॉज ऑफ द रिबा सिस्टम. अच्छा जी, और हदीस सुन लें. शबे मेराज में, I saw in the night of Mi'raj, in the seventh heaven, I looked up and there was some thunder and lightning and flashes, and I came upon some people whose bellies were as massive as a large room or a hall, and in those bellies were snakes which could be seen from outside. I said, who are these people? Jibreel replied, these are the ones akalatul riba, who used to take interest from people. हो गया. सांप अंदर है, बहुत से सांप हैं, काट रहे हैं, जहर, पॉइजन, दुख रहा है, तकलीफ पे तकलीफ, चीख रहे हैं, चिल्ला रहे हैं. और इतने बड़े बड़े कमरे, जैसे कोई बड़ा हॉल हो, इतना बड़ा पेट उनका, इतने बड़े पेटू. वैसे भी सूद खाने वाले मोटे मोटे पेटू ही होते हैं, तो वो पेट वहां भी उनका बड़ा है और उसमें सांप है और अंदर से उनको काट रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ रिबा. आगे एक और हदीस, बस अब फिनिश करते हैं. फरमाया, इय्याका वज़्ज़ुनूब अल्लती ला तुग़फ़र अल-ग़ुलूल फ़मन ग़ल्ल शैअन अता बिही यौमल क़ियामा व अक्लु रिबा. Refrain from sins which are not forgiven. Number one is ghulul, stealing from male ghanimat, war booty. Whoever steals from male ghanimat will bring it forth on the day of Qiyamah. And number two, aklur riba, consuming riba, is an unforgivable sin. Unless you stop and you do tawbah, that is another thing. But riba cannot be forgiven without tawbah. Allah doesn't forgive riba. Like other sins are forgiven by wuzu, namaz, walking for namaz. Hasanat take away sayyi'at. But riba is such a sin that hasanat do not forgive it. You have to do tawbah from riba for it to be forgiven. Otherwise, it won't be forgiven. Then another hadith. إِذَا أَقْرَضَ الرَّجُلُ الرَّجُلَ فَلَا يَأْخُذْ هَدِيَّةً. If a person gives loan to another person, then he should not accept a gift from the other person presented by the one in debt, the debtor. Okay, this is because it will be classed as riba. If I let you borrow £1,000 and then after 6 months, you are paying back your money, but you bring me some nice gifts that it's Eid, Ramzan Eid, Baqarah Eid, I brought you this present of attar and this and that and these gifts, then that will be classed as a riba, because I'm going to get my money back anyway. This is additional extra. Our akabir, how careful they were. Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi was once going somewhere and they stopped at one place and they had to sit down. So Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi sat down in the sun, heat. Someone said, there is the shade over there, why don't you sit in the shade? And Imam Sahib said, no, it's all right, I'm okay here. Then you tell me why you don't sit. He said, the owner of that house has borrowed some money from me. If I was to sit in the shade of that house, I would be benefiting from that. Ya Allah. In itna bhi benefit lena usse pasand nahi kiya. So this is how careful they were. Imam Abu Hanifa was Imam Abu Hanifa. His taqwa was on another level. So he said, no, I can't take it, because this would be classed as deriving benefit from the debtor. So we have to be very careful in this matter. If you give some money to someone, then avoid taking gifts from them as long as they are using your money. When they give you your money back, things have been sorted out. After that, if they give some hadiyah or something, that's all right. But during that period, you must refrain so that it does not become riba. So these are warnings in the Hadith Sharifa about riba. As we read, riba is worse than 33 zina. 1 pound riba is worse than 33 zina. And we also read, don't just think that taking riba is haram, paying riba is also haram. So to take out mortgage and keep paying your hard-earned money, right, is also a sin. And I explained this before, if you remember. This is a grave sin, because if everybody is paying it, they are being part and parcel of that system, and they are also promoting the riba. If nobody takes out mortgage, nobody pays interest, where are the banks and the capitalists going to get their money from? So because you become part and parcel of that system, that's why mortgage and loan and credit purchase and all these a credit card and then paying interest on there is not allowed, is haram. Alhamdulillah, if we look at our family system, our father, may Allah have mercy on him, he nurtured us in such a manner. Alhamdulillah, we never paid one penny of interest. अगर कभी खुदा न खास्ता कोई मिस्टेक गड़बड़ी कभी हो गई हो, अल्लाह हमको माफ करे, तो हमारी तो जान निकल गई कि भाई ये क्या यार, ये तो इंटरेस्ट कब पे करने को आ गया, हम लोग गोना पे इंटरेस्ट। कभी ऐसे भूल हो जाती है ना, कभी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कभी की नहीं, लेकिन कभी भूल हुई तो भी जान निकल गई कि ये क्या हो गया। इसलिए हम क्रेडिट कार्ड भी नहीं रखते अपने पास, because sometimes you get tempted to buy something on credit card, and then you think, okay, yeah, it's on the 25th date, I'll pay it off before that, I'm going to get my wages on the 20th, so I'll pay it off. But then something happens, you're not able to pay it, and after 25 you have to pay the interest. तो आपका पैसा गया। So हक हलाल का पैसा, you earned it with your blood and sweat, right? And you're paying it in interest. Your money is going and you're incurring the sin. पैसा भी गया और गुनाह भी आया। तो ये इसलिए सूद लेना भी हराम, सूद भरना भी हराम। और सूदी मामला और रिबा, बैंक जॉब, बैंक में क्लर्क्स जॉब इज नो अलाउड। हाँ, बैंक में दूसरा और है, चपरासी है, स्वीपिंग है, झाड़ू देना है, वो अलाउ है, जिसमें डायरेक्ट इंटरेस्ट के साथ इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं है, दैट वुड बी अलाउड। बट टू सिट ऑन द काउंटर and do the transaction, or sit on the phone and promote that mortgage and call people, और उसमें इंटरेस्ट का सबको बताना कि this is how we do it and you take ये सब जॉब्स मना है। बैंक में जॉब नहीं करने का, और उससे एहतियात करो। और जो लोग करते हैं उनके लिए ये एडवाइस है कि दूसरा कोई जॉब ढूंढो, और जब तक मिले नहीं अभी चालू रखो बैंक, लेकिन जब दूसरा जॉब मिल जाए, व्हेन यू फाइंड अनदर जॉब, टू लीव द बैंक जॉब। हलाल कमाई वाला जॉब ढूंढो और हलाल कमाई करो, और बहरहाल ऐसे जॉब जो है उससे एहतियात किया जाए। एनीवे, दिस इज अबाउट रिबा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, the topic of riba has come to a conclusion now, and now the next ayat is the longest ayat of Quran, ayatul mudayana, the adab of borrowing and lending, writing it down, having some witnesses, and doing things properly. These etiquettes will be mentioned in the next ayat, and inshallah the tafsir of this will be, I don't know when, next week is Ramzan, inshallah. Ramzan mein to tafsir nahi hogi because everybody is busy. I will also be busy running around here and there. I don't know when I will be on Tuesday. Most of the days I'm going to be here, but some days I have to go. But when I'm here, I'll do the regular tafsir. Jo Quran Sharif mein padhte hain na, I'll do that tafsir inshallah. And after Asr, we'll have bayan inshallah. This year after Asr, I'm thinking of doing Awariful Ma'arif of Sheikh Shihabuddin Suhrawardi, rahmatullahi alayhi, from Kitabus Sawm. If you remember last year, I did Kitabus Sawm from Ghazali's Ihya'ul Ulum. So, alhamdulillah, it was well received. And I was going over Awariful Ma'arif of Sheikh Shihabuddin Suhrawardi. And he's got very nice points in there about Sawm and the adab of Sawm and etiquettes of Sawm and Mashaykh's behavior with regards to Sawm. So I think we'll go over that inshallah. After Asr, we'll have that program. After Isha, we'll have our regular tafsir. And in the afternoon, we have our Khatme Khajgan. And before that, maybe, I don't know, we'll have some ta'aleem or something like that. Inshallah, for the first 10 days, I'll try and sit in the Nafil I'tikaf. I'll have to go out for bayans here and there, but I'll try and spend maximum time in the masjid. So come down. And the middle 10 days, because I'll be running around on the 18th I'll have to leave for Toronto, Canada. तो इसलिए वहां तक तो यहाँ है इंशाल्लाह. हमने वो तरावी का शेड्यूल भी बना लिया है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. यहाँ पर we gonna have 2 khatams. One khatam in 15 days and another khatam in the next 15 days inshallah. And at FLC, Maulana Zaid Diveli Saab will be leading the Taraweeh and he will be looking after there. And Maulana Ilyas Raja Saab will be there as well. His son Hafiz Ibrahim Raja is going to lead Taraweeh there, along with 2 other Hafiz Ismail and another Hafiz Saab. And number 3 in Lostock, we're going to have Taraweeh there as well. Maulana Sajjad Damna Saab will be leading there. He will be doing some tafsir or some nasihat after the Taraweeh in Lostock, LLC, inshallah. And there's Hafiz Adnan Kotwal, Hafiz Khubayb Dana, and Hafiz Ismail Patel. They are going to do Taraweeh over there in LLC, inshallah. So over here, myself and Maulana Safwan and Maulana Ahmad, we're going to do. Maulana Ahmad, I'm going to send him to Lostock for first few days, and then maybe bring him here and then see how it goes. So this is our schedule for Taraweeh, inshallah, and Ramzan schedule as well, little bit, so people know. Inshallah, Maulana Bilal Ishaq, you will send out the Ramzan schedule and the Taraweeh schedule as well, so we can benefit from there. Allah khair ka मामला करे. Friday is Chand Raat, and most likely चांद हो जाएगा क्योंकि पिछला महीना 30 का था, तो ये महीना तो 29 का ही होगा बज़ाहिर. अल्लाहु आलम, अल्लाह बेहतर जानते हैं. तो Friday night, if it's Taraweeh, then Saturday will be Roza. Otherwise, Saturday will be first Taraweeh and Sunday will be first Roza. As for ladies, we have 3 Sundays here: 2nd, 9th, and 16th of March. So every Sunday from 1:30 till 3:30 we'll have ladies program. 1:30 till 2:30 we'll have bayan, and 2:30 till 3:30 tilawat. We will tell ladies to sit here, take Quran in their hands, and everybody, all ladies should be reading Quran. So this will be on Sundays for the ladies here at HLC. And at FLC, they're going to have some program for ladies as well. Over the weekend, some Imani Muzakra and things like that. So उसका वहाँ हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह. LLC में कुछ ladies का नहीं बना है, लेकिन वहाँ भी बना देंगे इंशाल्लाह. ठीक है जी, ये है शेड्यूल. अब देखिए साहब, अताकुम शहरु रमज़ान शहरु बरकतिन यग़शाकुमुल्लाहु फ़ीह फ़युनज़िलुर रहमा व यहुत्तुल ख़ताया. आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को रमज़ान का कितना एहतिमाम है कि आने से पहले खुतबा देते हैं, सबको रेडी कर रहे हैं, तैयार हो जाओ, बी रेडी, गेट रेडी, रमज़ान इज़ हियर. तो हमारे अंदर भी वी शुड हैव दैट जज्बा एंड जोश एंड शौक ऑफ रमज़ान मुबारक. बहरहाल अल्लाह पाक जो है हमें रमज़ान की कदर करने की तौफीक दे, रमज़ान की बरक़ात से माला माल फरमाए. फजर बार रोज़ाना हमारे फ़ज़ाइल रमज़ान में से तालीम होती है, तो उसमें भी आप शामिल हो जाया करें, इंशाअल्लाह फ़ायदा होगा. सुने, अल्लाह पाक हमको फ़ायदा नसीब करे. कोई बात रह तो नहीं गई अमीन भाई? कुछ कहने का हो तो याद दिला दे अयूब भाई. है हाँ, जज़ाकल्लाह फॉर रिमाइंडिंग. रमज़ान में ज़िक्र, अब जो है ना, जिक्र के आदाब में, अमोंग द आदाब ऑफ जिक्र इज वी शुडंट डू जिक्र ऑन अ फुल बेली, फुल स्टमक, वरना तो बर्प आएगा, उल्टी हो जाएगी, गड़बड़ होगी. अब शहरी में हम खूब कड़ी खिचड़ी खा के आते हैं, तो फजर बाद जिक्र करेंगे तो प्रॉब्लम. इसलिए रमज़ान में जिक्र विल बी आफ्टर ज़ोहर नमाज. Normally what we do is in Ramadan after Zohar we have our Khatme Khajgan and maybe 40 duroods inshallah, and then dua, and after that we have our zikr majlis. So throughout the month of Ramadan, zikr majlis will be after Zohar. I know it's going to be a bit tough for some people because everybody's at work. Our Yunus Malik is going to be at work. Bichara, he can't come in Ramadan after. हैं असर बात जमेगी नहीं बात, because one day I'm here, another day I'm somewhere else, तो कंटिन्यूटी नहीं रहेगी। और इसमें जिक्र में ऐसा है कि यू नीड दैट कंसिस्टेंसी, और बाकायदा एक टाइम रोजाना जिक्र होना चाहिए। फजर बाद हमारा साल भर जिक्र होता है ना, ऊपर मले आला के फरिश्ते भी वेट करते हैं कभी जिक्र आएगा। जैसे हम किसी की वेट करते हो ना, तो फरिश्ते भी जिक्र के लिए वेट करते हैं, अभी आएगा जिक्र, अभी आएगा जिक्र, वो खुश होते हैं। फिर वो हमारे कल्ब पर अपनी रहमतें, अल्लाह की रहमत बरसाते हैं, नाजिल करते हैं, मजलिस को छा जाते हैं। तो एक टाइम हो ना, वन टाइम, एंड कीप डूइंग दैट विद कंसिस्टेंसी। आई वुड लव टू डू इट आफ्टर फजर। द प्रॉब्लम इज, यही प्रॉब्लम है कि वो सहरी है, पेट भरा होता है, तो उस वक्त जिक्र करने में जरा दुश्वारी रहती है। करना चाहिए। कितने बजे है फजर? 5:25 है ना, तो इज गोना बी समवेयर अराउंड 5:30। करना है फजर, आई डोंट माइंड, फजर बात कर लेंगे, लेकिन ये करना है फजर बात, तो आप जोहर बाद छुट्टी हो जाएगी। अच्छा चलो, मैं ऐसा करता हूँ, आई डू मशवरा टुमारो विद द ज़ाकिरीन आफ्टर फजर। इफ दे ऑल वांट टू डू इट आफ्टर फजर, तो फिर शहरी में कड़ी खिचड़ी कम खाएंगे। फजर बाद तालीम तो रोज होती है, अभी तालीम हो रही है फजाइल रमजान। हाँ, तो फजाइल रमजान तालीम तो हो रही है, उसके बाद जिक्र भी हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह। चलो कुछ ट्राई करते हैं इंशाल्लाह। अगर साथियों ने सबने कहा कर लो, तो फिर बहुत जोर से जिक्र नहीं करेंगे, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता करेंगे, और जरा हल्का जिक्र कर लेंगे, धीरे धीरे कर लेंगे। लेकिन चलो फजर बाद चालू रखेंगे, अगर सबके लिए इसी में फायदा है तो। और वैसे एक बात और भी है, पहले तो फजर वॉज बी अर्ली, अब तो फजर इज क्वाइट लेट एज वेल। सो आई थिंक वी माइट बी एबल टू डू इट आफ्टर फजर इंशाल्लाह। 7-5 बजे है ना, और अब तो घंटा भी तो लास्ट ईद के दिन चेंज होगा घंटा। ईद से पहले तो क्लॉक्स ना गोइंग बैक, फॉरवर्ड, ईद के दिन फॉरवर्ड जाएगा। और कनाडा में तो मैंने चेक किया, कनाडा में तो शुरू में ही फॉरवर्ड जा रहा है। they go 2-3 weeks before us. They go on the first Sunday of March. तो उनका तो 8वें-9वें रोजे से उनका क्लॉक चेंज हो जाएगा, तो वो तो 1 घंटा आगे होंगे। लेकिन हमारा लास्ट संडे ऑफ मार्च चेंज होता है, तो इसलिए हमारा 31st को चांद रात जो होगी उस वक्त घंटा चेंज होगा। तो वहां तक तो इंशाल्लाह चलती रहेगी जिक्र मजलिस। तो देखते हैं, तो ठीक है, फिर फजर बाद जिक्र कर लेंगे इंशाल्लाह, और पॉसिबल तो है तो कर लेंगे इंशाल्लाह, फजर बाद कर लेंगे, तो जोहर बाद फिर छुट्टी रहेगी इंशाल्लाह। बहरहाल, और वीकेंड में हमारा मदरसा चालू रहेगा। जो मदरसा है बच्चों का मकतब, हिफ्ज क्लास, आलिम क्लास, because we can't call them in weekdays, because इफ्तारी in the middle, so we're going to call the kids in क्या कहते हैं, Saturday and Sunday 10:30 till Zohar time. Maktab will be till 12:30 and Alim class will be till 1 o'clock Zohar time. तो जोहर पढ़ के सैटरडे संडे चले जाएंगे बच्चे इंशाल्लाह। Yeah, of course they have to give their names. We need to know how many people are going to sit in i'tikaf, so we can, facilitate for them. Inshallah, we'll make an announcement. Whoever wants to do i'tikaf, Maulana Safwan is not coming with me to America, so he's Canada, so he's going to be here. Maulana Yunus Malik will be here as well. My son Maulana Ahmad will be here as well. I don't know whether he's going to do i'tikaf or not. लेकिन बच्चों की स्कूल चालू है ना, तो इसलिए उनको स्कूल बच्चों को छोड़ने जाना पड़ता है, सब कामकाज होता है, इसलिए उनके लिए मुश्किल है। उस दिन बात हुई, मैंने कहा तो क्या बच्चों को स्कूल छोड़ने जाना है? मैंने कहा मैं तेरी माँ को और तुम 5 बच्चों को छोड़ के दारुल पूरा महीना जाता था। तेरी माँ बेचारी पुश्तिया में 2 बच्चों को लेकर के वो बाइक सिलेंडर से ले जाती थी। अल्लाह इसको जज़ाए खैर दे, बहुत कुर्बानी है उसकी। पहले जमाने की औरतें कुर्बानी करती थी, जमाने की औरतें तो जरा फुसफुसी हो गई हैं, सारा काम शौहर से कराती हैं। हाँ, और मुझे बहुत से ने भी शिकायत की, दूसरों ने भी की कि तो जब से बेबी आई है घर का गुलाम बन गया है, माँ बाप की खबर ही नहीं लेता है। हमारे एक दोस्त है, उन्होंने कहा ये नैपी भी चेंज करता है, बेगम आराम से बैठी रहती है। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, औरत का काम औरत करे, मर्द का काम मर्द करे, है ना। जरा औरतों को भी ख्याल रखना चाहिए, और मर्दों को इस तरह के काम जो है औरतों के, वो उनसे नहीं कराने चाहिए। वो औरतों का काम औरत करे और मर्द का काम मर्द करे, और कुर्बानी तो देना पड़ता है, कुर्बानी देते हैं तो सवाब मिलता है ना, कुर्बानी देंगे तो सवाब, कुर्बानी से ही अल्लाह राजी होंगे, बगैर कुर्बानी के अल्लाह थोड़ी राजी होंगे। चलो, सुब्हानकल्लाहुम्मा व बिहम्दिक नशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता नस्तगफिरुका व नतूबु इलैक। अल्लाहुम्मा लकल हम्दु व लकश शुक्रू। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मदिन नबिय्यिल उम्मी व अला आलिहि व सहबिहि व सल्लिम तस्लीमा। अल्लाहुम्मा अन्फअना बिमा अल्लमतना व अल्लिमना मा यनफअुना व ज़िदना इल्मा। अल्लाहुम्मा इन्ना नसअलुका इल्मन नाफ़िअन व अमलन सालिहन व रिज़्क़न वासिअन व शिफ़ाअन मिन कुल्लि दा। अल्लाहुम्मा बारिक लना फ़ी रजब व शअबान व बल्लिगना रमज़ान। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लिमना लिरमज़ान व सल्लिम रमज़ान लना व तसल्लमहु मिन्ना मुतक़ब्बला। अल्लाहुम्मा वफ़्फ़िक़ना फ़ी हाज़िहिल अय्यामिल मुबारकति लिमा तुहिब्बु व तर्ज़ा मिनल क़ौलि वल फ़िअलि वल अमलि वन निय्यति वल हदयि इन्नका अला कुल्लि शैइन क़दीर। परवरदिगार आलम, महज़ अपने फ़ज़्ल व करम से हम सब की मग़फ़िरत फ़रमाइए, पूरी उम्मत की मग़फ़िरत फ़रमाइए। जो कुछ पढ़ा उसको हमारे ज़हन में, दिलो दिमाग में बिठाइए और अमल की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाइए। सूद की खराबी और कबाहत समझने की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाइए और सूद की खराबी और कबाहत और इसकी मुसीबत और लानत से हम सब की हिफाजत फ़रमाइए, हमारी नस्लों की भी हिफाजत फ़रमाइए या अल्लाह, और हमारे ममालिक की भी हिफाजत फ़रमाइए। और ये जो जुल्म करते हैं अल्लाह बेचारे गरीबों पर, इससे बेचारे गरीबों की हिफाजत फ़रमाइए। परवरदिगार आलम, रमज़ान का मुबारक महीना सामने है, उसके लिए स्पिरिचुअली, मेंटली प्रिपेयर हो जाने की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाइए। और या अल्लाह, रमज़ान की बाग़ो बहार नसीब फ़रमाइए। रमज़ान के रोज़े, तिलावत, तस्बीहात, तरावी, ज़िक्र फ़िक्र, दुआएँ, या अल्लाह एतिकाफ़, शब क़दर, सदका खैरात लिल्लाह, अल्लाह इसकी तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाइए। या अल्लाह, आपके रास्ते में खूब खर्च करने की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाइए। मुसलमानों के सदका, ज़कात, खैरात, अतियात को कबूल फ़रमाइए। अल्लाह, हम सब से राज़ी हो जाइए, हमारी टूटी फूटी दुआएं सुन लीजिए, हर तरह की खैर व बरकत हम सबको नसीब फरमाइए। हर किस्म के शुरूर और फितन और बलाओं और आफतों और मुसीबतों और बीमारियों और प्रॉब्लम्स से हम सब की हिफाजत फरमाइए। अल्लाह, रमज़ान का महीना अच्छी तरह से गुजारने हमारे लिए मुक़द्दर फरमाइए और हमेशा आमाल सालिहा में मशगूल रहने की तौफ़ीक़ अता फरमाइए और टाइम वेस्ट करने से हमारी हिफाजत फरमाइए। हमारी मसाजिद को आबाद फरमाइए, आमाल मस्जिद से आबाद फरमाइए। या अल्लाह, गीबतों से पाक फरमाइए, तोहमतों से पाक फरमाइए, तेरी मेरी लड़ाई झगड़ों से पाक फरमाइए। या अल्लाह, प्यार मोहब्बत के साथ रहने की तौफ़ीक़ अता फरमाइए। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम व तुब अलैना इन्नका अंतत तव्वाबुर रहीम। व सल्लल्लाहु तआला अला खैरि ख़ल्क़िही सय्यिदिना मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि व सहबिही अजमईन बिरहमतिका या अर्हमर राहिमीन।